This podcast is sponsored by the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is a catalyst for growth and prosperity and is here to protect and promote business, inspire innovation, cultivate communities, and influence action. Learn more at fmwfchamber.com.
Stay connected to your community and save. Just 99 cents a month gets you 3 months of unlimited access to inform.com. Visit inform.com/subscribe and get your first 3 months of news for only 99 cents a month.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Inform Business Beat podcast. After a week off, we've got plenty to catch up on, so let's get things started. Leading off, Helmut Schmidt reported on a new preschool set to open in Fargo this fall. The Peace Academy is scheduled to open its door to 3 to 5-year-olds beginning September 8th. Thus far, the academy has 160 students enrolled and a staff of 17. Peace Academy offers 2, 3, or 5-day programs with morning and afternoon options. Founder Jana Bruchwein said she decided to open Peace Academy after seeing several preschools close in the FM area throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. A new Starbucks opened in North Moorhead Friday, August 12th. The Starbucks is located at the front of the East 10 Mall along Highway 10 East, featuring a drive-thru and outdoor patio. General Manager Barb Huglin told the forum she was excited to be opening a coffee shop in a part of the city that had previously lacked one. The Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce was awarded a $9.62 million workforce training grant. The grant, which was issued by the Economic Development Administration, will be used to train over 900 workers in the next 3 years through the Ignite Initiative Regional Workforce Training System. The Ignite program plans to specifically target people of color, immigrants, veterans, military spouses, and people who have been through the criminal justice system. Also partnering on the program are the Grand Farm, North Dakota State College of Science, Emerging Prairie, University of Mary, and Work Bay. After a call for help, Moorhead's Thai Orchid restaurant received a major boost from the community recently. It all started when the restaurant shared via Facebook that construction along Center Avenue in Moorhead had dampened their business. The post drew several responses from people and businesses who did not want to see yet another local restaurant close on their watch. That included Lauren Zima, owner of the Nines clothing store. Zima offered discounts at her store for those who brought in receipts from Thai Orchid. Within days, Thai Orchid was swarming with diners. The boost had even helped the business pay overdue bills and get back on steady ground. The new Bottle Barn off Broadway is hoping to open by the new year. The 4,000 square foot liquor store is going into the newly opened Kessler building at 618 2nd Avenue North in downtown Fargo. Owner Joel Wold expressed excitement that the Bottle Barn would draw considerable foot traffic from downtown events in addition to visits from downtown residents and workers. The new Bottle Barn will carry a smaller inventory than Wold's other stores, but it will still stock beer, wine, and liquor. If all goes well, he hopes to open in December. Melberg Christian Book and Gift is closing its doors in downtown Moorhead. After 70 years in business, co-owners Carl and Denise Backham opted to step away from the business after receiving an offer to sell their 40% share of the building. Melberg started a going-out-of-business sale at the beginning of August. The store will continue offering discounts throughout September while inventory lasts. Going forward, patrons were advised to visit Hurley's Religious Goods in Fargo. A local development company is putting a construction material that dates back to the 6th century to the test, right here in Fargo. That material is Hempcrete, and just as it sounds, it's made from the inner core of industrial hemp plants. Here today to break it down is Sydney Glup, Sustainability and Design Coordinator for Grassroots Development. Sydney, thank you for chatting with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So Sydney, just to get us started, what is Hempcrete in the first place?
Yeah, so Hempcrete, like you kind of referenced, it is a super ancient building material. It's been used for a long time. So we take the hemp stalk, has a couple different layers. And so we're looking for that inner woody core. That stalk, the core is chopped up into little wood chips style pieces into a couple different sizes that can be used for different applications. But one specific size used for Hempcrete is then mixed with, like you said, a lime binder, which is kind of like a limestone derivative, and then water. And just super simple, those 3 ingredients, and you mix it together. And it's kind of our running joke now that when you make Hempcrete, it turns into like a chicken salad consistency, is sort of what it looks like. Yeah, and then so you take that, and that's the material that is stuffed into in between form boards around the frame of the house. And then it cures over the course of 6 weeks to harden and turn into this awesome insulation material with a ton of great benefits and, yeah, a lot of awesome qualities.
And so what is it like working with Hempcrete hands-on when you're mixing that in the bucket? What does that feel like?
Well, so we use, for our build, we use a concrete mixer just for speed of batches to get through because we go through quite a bit of material. So it is, it's kind of wet, it's kind of sticky. And the beautiful thing about hempcrete is it's not an exact science. So you can mix your batches, if you've got a spot that needs a little bit of patching, and maybe you want your mix to stick more easily, you can make it a little bit more wet, you can add more herd, make it a little bit more dry, just depending on kind of how you're filling. But I love it. My favorite thing about hempcrete is that it's super rudimentary. So the hempcrete home in Fargo that we built, we, like I mentioned, built a wood frame, and then we had form boards around that frame to establish our 12-inch wall depth that we were trying to achieve. And then we were quite literally hauling bucket upon bucket upon bucket of hempcrete up and down scaffolding, pouring it in there, and then physically packing it by hand. So every single inch was physically packed by our 5-person team.
Now, hempcrete is something that's been in use for a really long time. You said it yourself, it's an ancient building material. But why in modern times would someone want to use this as opposed to the standard contemporary building materials that we're all familiar with?
Well, there are a lot of great benefits to hempcrete. The first being that just hemp itself is an awesome crop. So the source of that material, hemp, when you plant it, it does a lot to remediate and regenerate the soil. So remediating any pollutions or toxins in the soil, and then regenerating a lot of that nutrient profile that tends to get depleted if you're planting, a really aggressive monocrop like corn or soybeans. So on that basic farming level, it's super helpful there just to be planting hemp in the first place. And then when you break it down and you get further into the hempcrete, a lot of the benefits are, I like to think of them as kind of safety benefits, and those include the fire resistance. I don't know the exact temperature that they did, but I saw, I've seen several different labs where they've taken a brick of hempcrete and put a giant blowtorch to it, and you'll just see the hempcrete sort of begin to lightly char, but no smoke and no flammability. So that's an awesome thing. I especially love that feature due to the increased density that we're seeing in cities and neighborhoods. We're kind of running out of room to live. So we're stacking houses either right next to each other or lots of dwellings on top of each other. So that fire resistance creates an awesome opportunity to avoid a lot of what we're seeing now, where you'll see one house catch fire and then the neighbor's house and then the next neighbor's house. And it kind of spreads that way. Also touching on, like the wildfires and things that happen more out west, but are spreading across the country as our climate changes. So that's the first thing that's awesome about hempcrete, fire resistance. On the safety aspect also, which transitions into the human health benefits, would be the moisture resistance, contributing also to mold resistance. So hempcrete is a super breathable material, allowing moisture to permeate through different levels of the wall, which allows for, that airflow, so moisture is not getting trapped, which is where you start to get that life forming. Whereas in a conventional build, the entire house is basically wrapped in plastic, where you have to have an airflow system to keep the walls from molding. So that's a great way that hempcrete sort of avoids all that extra hustle and hassle of trying to keep the moisture moving through the house. It kind of does that on its own. So that's awesome. And then hempcrete also sequesters carbon. Not only does the hemp sequester carbon or suck carbon from the atmosphere while it's growing, but the hempcrete dwelling itself will actually continue to sequester carbon throughout its life cycle. And yeah, so that contributes to air quality, super great air quality. It has the ability to kind of filter and move different molds or different volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, as you'll see them listed throughout the home. So really improving the air quality. Yeah, it's got a lot of great structural reinforcement qualities. It's not a structural material on its own, but it does a lot to really bulk up the integrity of the home. And it almost brings the home up to a standard of like a brick home, something that's really built to last with a lot of longevity, can stand for, hundreds and hundreds of years if it's installed and treated properly.
And tell us a little bit about the test house here in Fargo then. What are some of the things that you're hoping to learn?
Yeah, so this is primarily a research project. We do have dreams to, have people staying in the units and experiencing, living in a hempcrete structure. But for now, at least for, 6 months to a year, we'll be avoiding that occupancy to just gather data. So what we're hoping to gain from that, first of all, we're measuring our build cost. So we're looking at the cost of building, a race to the bottom, as cheap as you can, conventional home compared to a hempcrete home, which in our reflection, the cost comparison is probably more comparative to a brick home just in terms of longevity. But we really wanted to give that picture of what's it going to take to get hempcrete into the mainstream construction market. So in addition to the building cost, we're also looking at operational cost. And we're going to do that through little power meters are going to be placed in our breaker panel for our split system HVAC. So we're going to measure heating and cooling over the course of the year between the two units. We're also going to measure moisture in the wall. We have a couple of embedded moisture probes throughout different layers of the hempcrete wall. We're also measuring moisture in the conventional to get those even numbers. And then we're also looking at things like outdoor air temperature and humidity compared to indoor air temperature and humidity, and just seeing how the hempcrete can interact with the environment and kind of act as a mediator for harsh conditions. Hempcrete also has a thermal mass, which I forgot to mention, in addition to insulation. So as the sun beats down on the outside of the hempcrete, specifically on, south-facing walls or southwest-facing walls, the lime in the hempcrete can actually harness some of that energy and then distribute it into the home as the home cools down later in the evening. So that's an awesome benefit. Operates similar to like an Adobe style home that you might see in the Southwest region. But yeah, we're just trying to get as much data as we can to contribute to the industry. There are a lot of people doing a lot of great things, and ultimately what it's going to take for hempcrete to enter into the mainstream market is that city officials, city inspectors, building permitters, they just want the data, they want the information. The city of Fargo has been super awesome working with us, and I definitely appreciate their diligence in just wanting to see as much information as possible.
So it sounds like there are definitely some hurdles to hempcrete right now. What would you say is the future for hempcrete? How do you see it incorporating into the mainstream then?
It's kind of twofold. So first, there just is not enough hemp being grown. And I think a lot of that has to do with, long-lasting stigma around hemp and the separation between hemp and cannabis. And I think that there's a lot more, information and dialogue being shared, especially geared toward the farmer to really just inform them on, the market value, opening up more markets for farmers and really explaining to them, this is cannabis. We're not asking you to grow that. This is, potentially psychoactive or medicinal. That's a whole separate category. This fiber and grain crop, however, sort of a sister to the cannabis plant, is it's not psychoactive, and really just breaking through that barrier to get more farmers to plant hemp is the number one concern or limitation. And then secondary would be just logistics and transportation, that even if we have a ton of farmers growing hemp, there are still only a few entities processing hemp, and specifically processing hemp for building grade material, building grade spec. So another way that we're hoping to overcome that challenge is by opening up a processing facility. And we're actually, Grassroots Development, the company that I work for, is working with C2 Renew to open Valley Fiber Processing in Wahpeton, North Dakota. So that, we're working really hard to get that online and chatting with farmers, but just bringing more processing in every region of the country, with the goal that anyone who wanted to build with hempcrete would be able to locate hemp and that process material within, in my mind, I'd like to say ideally 100 to 200 mile radius of where they are, just cutting down on, the emissions from transportation and the cost of transportation, And also just supporting our local economies. The more that we encourage farmers to plant hemp and the more jobs that we're able to create with these processing facilities, just really boosts up our local economy and our local supply chain, which is one of the greatest things that we can do to combat, the economic instabilities that come with life today.
So here's the $1 million question that I think a lot of people in our area are going to be interested in. And this is probably something that you're going to find out. But can Hempcrete handle the cold? It gets extremely cold here in Fargo. Mm-hmm. Will it be up to the test?
We think so. So Hempcrete has an R value or an insulation value of about 2.4 to 4.8 per inch. And so we're looking at about a 12-inch wall that gives us right around a 28 R value. And then we've also taken some extra steps just with this with our build specifically to insulate the foundation. And, I think that there's a lot of really, really great potential for Hempcrete. And I think with the thermal mass combined with the insulative factors, I think that it'll definitely stand the test. There is some information that's been put out. There's a person, Chris Magwood, who's up in Canada, who's put out some information about Hempcrete in cold climates. But that's really another reason that we're doing this is we want to just continue to add to that data and show truly, over the coldest months of the winter, how does that heating bill compare to the conventional build? And we're hoping that it shows to be better. We're anticipating about a 40% energy savings over the course of the year in the Hempcrete build compared to the conventional build. But truly, we're going to see. We're going for unbiased, third-party verified, standardized research here. And so whatever comes out of this project is what will contribute to the industry, whether that's, a major victory and a major gold star on the Hempcrete success board, or if it's just a call for improvement and a call to action, then we'll just see how the information turns out. But I feel quite confident in Hempcrete's ability to handle the cold just with its awesome insulation factor.
And that was Sydney Glup, Sustainability and Design Coordinator for Grassroots Development. Sydney, once again, thank you for joining us today and giving us the full breakdown on Hempcrete.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. And Grassroots Development, we just want to work hard to bring healthy homes to people in an accessible way and just share information and collaborate. So if you are interested or anyone who's interested in reaching out and collaborating with us, we are open to new ideas, new opportunities, and we're just growing and learning and happy to share where we can.
That wraps up this week's episode of the Inforum Business Beat podcast. Until next week, stay up to date on the latest business news at inforum.com/business.
Inforum is proud to be a part of the Trust Project. To learn more about our ideals and commitment to trustworthy journalism, go to inforum.com/policies and standards.